if we're talking about some of the what I consider to be extreme policies that are being touted as possibilities should the left win the general election, those are the ones that I hope don't come to fruition. But when you talk about in an overall sense, I do agree that this left-leaning surge, which is not just one person, but a number of people, the Squad and others, that are pushing the Democratic Party to the left. I certainly hope that, similar to the MAGA movement, that you would drag some moderates in there to try to keep some sanity with the policies that the Dems want to pursue.
Welcome to Third Side Convo with your host, Bob Phipps. Your panelists today are Jeff Klein, Jeff Nolan, Bill Russell, and Ollie Phipps. And now, your host, Bob Phipps.
Welcome to Third Side Convo. Now, the topic tonight was started from a conversation that Jeff Nolan and I had. Now, Jeff said that we were talking about the New York City mayoral race, and he sees that thing as a political sea change possibly for the Democrats. The question is whether or not the establishment will read the writing on the wall, or are they going to keep forcing business as usual bullshit, which is true, Jeff, okay? Now, the sudden progressive surge isn't just local. It's threatening to reshape the entire party's center of gravity. But how far can this go, and will it energize the base, or will it blow the whole thing up? All right, Jeff, you call this a Democratic sea change. What makes you think this moment could stick?
Well, I don't know that it can. I hope that it does. I think that it's a corollary to what happened for the Republicans in 2016 when a completely different ideology took over. And really, I think a lot of it came down to people just wanting change from the status quo of grinding bullshit. And the same thing is happening on the left.
Got it. All right. Who on the right? Do you see a corollary build between this and the MAGA movement? Because they're certainly both populist movements.
I would be less inclined to refer to Mandami as a populist movement in terms of, I don't think he has the broad base or is attracting anywhere near the broad base that we saw with the MAGA movement. And the danger of reading too much into this one, particularly with this primary, is voters typically don't show up to the primaries. Saw we had only a 30% turnout for the race in New York. And when you have a primary like this, what a person like Mandami and particularly as we get these far left radicals like AOC and Mandami, is they can get their voters to the polls for a primary, and when they run the polls, then they have a very heavily Democratic district and they win.
Okay. All right, Klein, we're going to go with you on that one. You're laughing, and that's what we want here. Go.
We're laughing at AOC being called a radical. That's what we're laughing at over here, because she's far from radical. Bernie might be radical, but she's definitely not. But I wonder. My first call was, why are they running a borderline sex offender for mayor of New York? I mean, Cuomo. Why? How does that guy get rehabilitated to be the leading candidate for this race? He had no business being in the race. So they got a big field. They got a couple of obscure candidates like Mamdani and then this Landman guy, and running against a big name guy that a bunch of people don't like, and a few people do. Some establishment people decided he should be in the race just 2 years after getting kicked out of office for too much misogyny. I don't think it may not mean anything that the race was won by Mamdani, except that he found a time to hate on Israel when people were wanting to vote against Israel for something.
Well, we're getting a little. Hey, Jeff, we're getting a little far afield. Boy, I just started into this show, and politicians' names are flying all over the place, and people don't realize what we're trying to talk about is the ideas and stuff, right? But how do you keep it out of that? And you're exactly right. What other choices do the New York City people have, right? It's corruption and sex offense on one side. Okay, Ollie, what's your take on the policies that the current guy wants? Are they going to work? The policies, we'll say.
Oh gosh, well, I certainly hope not. But I do agree with.
Hold on, you didn't get on. Say it again, Jeff.
You hope they don't work?
If we're talking about some of the what I consider to be extreme policies that are being touted as possibilities should the left win the general election, those are the ones that I hope don't come to fruition. But when you talk about in an overall sense, I do agree that this left-leaning surge, which is not just one person, but a number of people, the Squad and others that are pushing the Democratic Party to the left, I certainly hope that, similar to the MAGA movement, that you would drag some moderates in there to try to keep some sanity with the policies that the Dems want to pursue.
I think as a party, the Democrats are not falling towards the Squad or leaning to the left. We showed that because in the primaries, 2 Squad members got primaried and kicked out of office.
Okay.
Good for them.
I mean, there is no powerful left in the United States. What is thought of as the left here is really just center or even center right. It just, the politics in the United States, especially since the rise of MAGA, but even before that, has pulled so far to the right that anything that smacks of common sense that helps people is vilified as a socialist nightmare. Any just normal, hey, wouldn't it be great if we did this for people? Screw you! You are a commie! It's insane. And it's all really predicated on protecting capital and protecting corporate and interests and wealth. It's so entrenched and so powerful in this country that anything that even smells like it might threaten it is destroyed with the equivalent of a political nuke. Whether it's money from some kind of oligarch like Musk, or whether it is a circling of the wagons of something like the DNC. I'm not going to defend the Democrats here. They can kiss my ass too. It's
what policies, Ollie? What policies are you talking about that are extreme? So we could go on and talk about what are some of the things that he wants to do in New York City that probably may not work.
Everybody knows you got the city-run groceries. You got the freeze on rents, and then the buses around town. So those things, oh my gosh, they're definitely pipe dreams.
Bill, do you feel the same way?
Yeah, and in fact, I would say that all of those policies would, in fact, do the most harm to the city of New York. When you look at when the effect of rent control policies is that it cuts out available housing for everybody. And in the end, what it does is shut down. It takes the profit incentive, which is that capitalist endeavor that provides the best housing to the most people. It takes it out of the equation, forces landlords into near bankruptcy, and penalizes them heavily, not allowing them to raise rents to meet for what they could demand based on the demand for for rental housing. Same thing with government-run markets. They're terrible. And we just talked about a game in the pre-show called Klachki, Polish game, where people can relive their communist days when there is no availability of products in government-run stores because you can't, even if you got the money, there's no products available to buy them.
All right, so, Klein.
Yeah, these are all terrible policies.
Let me have Klein jump in. Where has socialism ever worked? And tell me where it works. I mean, I know we've got the Nordic countries, which you could argue are democratic socialists, right?
Democratic socialism isn't socialism, but to answer your question, that it works on kibbutzim in Israel, but that's where it works. But other than that, it doesn't work at the government level. But a lot of things people call socialism isn't. The post office isn't socialism. The fire department isn't socialism.
Yeah.
But democratic socialism also isn't socialism. But there's nothing wrong with a guy who lives in New York City and makes a living off of New Yorkers paying him rent and earning over $500 million a year, paying just a little bit more in taxes. That's not a foul.
I guess that's in my area now. You know, real estate is heavily tax advantaged. I will tell you on that. Okay. The depreciation on those buildings is really big. Okay. Ollie, what other, I mean, are you just saying it's a policy? So Jeff, are you saying that some of these policies can work that they're currently talking about? Which ones are the ones you're saying we need to have? Nolan this time. I'm going with Nolan this time. Sorry.
Most of them.
We're confused there because me and Jeff both have
right.
The best name. I think that what Ollie's doing is a little bit typical. Hey, you know, the city buses are free, being equated to bread lines and gulags instantaneously is a little ridiculous to me. It's disingenuous. What is a better use of city tax money than providing services for citizens? Why is that bad? Why are we always able to use a pool of money, taxes, which is a social group of money, to do things that are negative or hurt people? But the moment somebody suggests you do something that maybe will help somebody, it becomes a huge issue. And oh my God, it's communism. Free buses? Oh my God, where will it end? You know, let's build a concentration camp in Florida. Well, yeah, that sounds like good use of money. It's like, why is the right so against anything that might help a wider swath of people?
Fair enough, Ollie. Take it.
Yeah, well, I think the concentration camp in Florida is helping the wider populace to keep the bad guys from murdering and raping.
You can think that all day, Ollie. That doesn't make it true.
Oh, God.
It's, you know.
So, but actually, I think that these policies that you and I are debating are going to cause the businesses, the unions, and the donor elites, they're going to leave. And then that's to the net detriment of New York.
Yeah. Well, higher taxes could certainly do that. And free buses has actually worked in very many cities. So it's probably not the same thing as the rent control and the grocery thing. But we've got to go ahead and take our break right now. And I'm glad we're seeing, I'm not sure we got a lot of agreement yet, but at least we're getting the issues on the table, which is what we do here on Third Side Convo. You know, please check us out. Please subscribe, thirdsideconvo.com, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all sorts of stuff. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Aw, Dad, my computer's slow again and I can't play my games.
Call Your Computer Solutions today and we will scan for viruses and clean that computer up remotely and make it fast again. Our phone number is 407-826-0810.
Thanks, Dad. My computer's fast again. Now I can do my homework. Thanks for calling Your Computer Solutions at 407-826-0810. The Tibia Show would like to thank Boggy Creek Airboat Adventures. I got to go on an airboat and saw a real gator. I even got to go to the gem mine and mine for some gems. We ate a steak dinner at the restaurant and even got some gator bites. If you want to have a blast with the entire family, I suggest you go to www.bcairboats.com right now. Get your tickets today. The website again is bcairboats.com.
Hey there, Jeff Klein. Could you do me a favor? We're going to take a quick second here. Can you adjust your speaker volume, not your mic volume, but your speaker volume lower, because we're hearing ourselves through your microphone. And that is...
Yeah, everybody's low. Turn it up. Sorry.
I'm sorry, but we're hearing ourselves and...
Nobody else needs to talk.
No, you're good.
No, it's not you talking.
No,
It's
it's
just
not
that we're
you
hearing
talking.
ourselves through it, so it's giving reverbing. Thank you very much. Okay. Boom. Okay, coming back from commercial. And you're coming from here, right?
No, I wasn't.
Not here? Center?
Yeah, center.
Okay, 3, 2.
You know, everything is changing these days, back to, being back here on Third Side Convo. It's like, people are taking the comedians seriously and the politicians are the joke. And I understand that what's happening between everybody, this is what they hear, this is what they read. And let's see if we can get some agreement here. Like I said, I think the transportation bill, Russell, do you have a problem with if, and again, we know that we understand free transportation doesn't mean free. Somebody's got to pay for it. But that might be one of those things that isn't a bad idea. What do you think?
Well, can I chime in with just one fact, please?
Sure.
I've heard the head of the Lynx, which is the Orlando Transit Authority, and the ridership pays something like only 30% of the operating cost. So maybe they're almost free as it is.
Yeah, they're all being subsidized. So not all policies are bad. Okay, so we got to quit attacking a little bit on that one. Okay, Jeff Klein, do you think both of the things? You think that rent control issue could actually work, or I don't think it has anywhere on a major scale.
Well, rent control has always been a New York City thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's always been an ongoing issue in New York City, and it's never been, as far as I know, a big issue with the economy of the city. Right. I don't think it's affected it in a big way because it's always been there. It's always been an issue, and it's always been a way that New Yorkers have been able to live in those buildings.
Right.
And I mean, I don't have a problem. The buses here in Dallas are subsidized, and as far as I know, there isn't a major city where mass transit is not subsidized, because you got to do something to get people out of their cars and use mass transit.
Yeah. Now, I think I disagree with Jeff Klein specifically on the rent control, because that's been a problem in New York City with rents. The available housing, it reduces the number of apartments that are available, because it takes the incentive out for people to build, those who would invest and build new apartments. So it reduces the number of units available. And then in the end, what happens is people end up having these legacy rental contracts that they keep for a lifetime. And then when they die, it didn't get reported, and somebody else moves in and lives under their name in the same apartment. And the poor home or a building owner is stuck collecting rents that were set 30 years before. It's just, it's terrible for everybody in the long run. It benefits only a certain few, and it's a bad policy.
I would like to.
Where do you build new apartments?
To the buses. Go ahead.
Where do you build new apartments in New York City?
Probably tearing down old ones.
Yeah, that's what they have to do. Is they have that creative destruction where if a building is no longer profitable, but you have all the renters' rights and everything that kick in and prevent that creative destruction that could put in new and better housing that could support more people.
Well, I would ask.
Of course, I guess we're real used to being, those of us who don't live there think of Manhattan only, when there's a big part of New York City that's not just people stuck in tall buildings.
Got it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have Manhattan, of course. You got total of 5 boroughs, but it, for those areas that are affected by rent controls, it does reduce the housing available, and in the end, it reduces the amount of affordable housing that is available.
Okay, we need Jeff Nolan has been chomping at the bit. Go for it.
And very, very quickly, I mean, I don't necessarily 100% disagree with what Bill just said, but I would ask him this. Do you think that business as usual, with the way that the New York rental market has been historically, works?
Business as usual. Well, there's a lot that goes into that. Defining business as usual. There's a lot of things that have
maximize profit for landlords.
If you maximize profits for landlords,
which is what New York has done.
Well, I disagree with you. because when you look at the rent controls, they do have the exact opposite effect. But as a pure economic model, a pure capitalist model will provide better housing for more people at a lower price than all the subsidized government controlled housing can provide. You got quality issues, you got numbers issues, but when you have government provided services that are step over the bounds, that step into taking, quote unquote, taking care of people in their regular lives, usually the government jams it all up and it gets all gunked up, and a free market system, a pure free market system would actually be even better than any socialist controlled system.
Well, I mean, then why haven't rents in New York historically fallen, since it is a capitalist free for all?
Well, it's not so much falling. I mean, the inflation is a thing. It does occur, but the question when we talk about rents falling, what you have is you have a limited number of, because you have those places that are rent controlled, those places that are not. Those places that are not rent controlled are much higher because the demand is much higher. They're much more subject to the laws of supply and demand. But those that are rent controlled tend to go down in quality over time because the building maintenance is a problem. The tenants tend to live longer term. They're not paying the rent, and you end up with a lot of problems with that.
I mean, in order to make that work, wouldn't there need to be incentives for builders to build affordable housing, where if it's purely profit motive in New York City, they're going to build the highest dollar units they possibly can, which is historically what has happened.
Yeah. Well, you've always got a problem on affordable housing with not in my backyard, right? I mean, that's NIMBY has always been a big problem there. Jeff Klein, what progressive policies that I guess that are out there now because of the New York City mayoral race that you see are best adapted to a national policy that the Democrats ought to jump on? What are they talking about?
Well, I'm sorry. Your question is far afield from what I was about to say.
Well, you finish your thought. Go on, throw in your thought, then I'll ask you the question. I want to know what their take should be.
Sure. I was thinking that rent control might just be similar to affirmative action. There's a time and a place for it, and it works when it needs to work in the right place in the right time, but that using it as a term that is, it's bandied about way too much, and just throwing it out as a pejorative that's bad or good isn't really using it accurately.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so what we're going to do, let's go on, and we're going to, yeah. Well, the question was, I said, what policy that's been thrown out there that obviously maybe on the right they think is crazy or whatever is best suited to some kind of a national policy for Democrats?
I think that for the guy we're talking about, there may not be. I'm not a fan of the guy that won the nomination for the Democrats.
All right.
For a lot of reasons, not least of which, I think defund the police is one of the things the Democrats have as a group have adopted.
Yeah.
And the guy comes across, picking a fight with Deborah Messing seems like a really bad idea, and several other things that he's doing, and coming from a place where he started his school chapter of Students for Students for Justice in Palestine. That's a lot of us think that's a group that supports terrorists. So
all right, well, we got to take our break now. I don't know about Deborah Messing, but just don't pick on Tiffany Amber Thiessen. Okay, just don't pick on her. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go and take our break now. Please subscribe on YouTube. Please check us out. It's just crazy. You can see we're just real people having a conversation, but we're going to continue doing that. We'll be right back after our break from our sponsor.
Corona Cigar Company is your one-stop shop for all your cigar needs. Whether that's a brand new humidor, a box of those new cigars you've been waiting for, a top-of-the-line cutter or lighter, a place to enjoy the finest cigars and spirits with friends, or the only cigars grown right here in the Sunshine State, we've got you covered. Come visit one of our retail locations for the ultimate cigar experience. Visit us online at coronacigar.com.
Oak Ridge Gun Range is a family-oriented shooting range that has been in business for over 30 years. They specialize in basic firearm training and offer numerous services such as consignments, gun trades, gunsmithing, and concealed weapon classes. I even got my training for gun safety at Oak Ridge Gun Range. Great customer service, and firearm safety is what they do best. So find out more at oakridgegunrange.com.
All right, welcome back to the Third Side Convo. And as you can see, it's an interesting show. Not all of every side agrees with all of everything. And that's the truth about anything. The great thing is we get to talk about it. So, Jeff Nolan, I want to ask you, you're kind of saying that the first point that was made, Ollie was just dissing everything as being stupid. And that's my brother. He's a lot more black and white than I am, Jeff. He could never be the moderator on this if you saw him at the last show. The point is, what serious policies are out there, okay, that really should be expanded on a national basis for the Democrats? Because everybody's kind of seeing this guy way out there. What are those policies that could actually be adopted by the National Democratic Party? How much is it going to change it? Go.
Well, I mean, I think that anything that helps working people is a message that should be taken nationally by the Democrats. I don't necessarily think they're going to do it because they suck. But, things like, the grocery store thing that everybody's making hay about, as if, it's going to be a government takeover of grocery stores. What is wrong with a co-op option? It's not like all of a sudden Publix is run out of town on a rail. And also, if I understand correctly, in New York City, he's only talking about like 3 pilot test runs of a community grocery store. And I may be mistaken about that, but that's the way I understand it. That to me does not sound like the sky is falling. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Who will think of the billionaires? Why is that a bad thing? And as we were talking about the bus thing, people need to be moved around to have a productive country. And as was mentioned earlier, bus lines in cities are already subsidized. So, we're talking about, free buses. Does that really just mean 30% more subsidy?
Hey, Bill Russell, do you agree with Jeff on that? And in some cases, look, with grocery stores, there is a real problem of what is known as a food desert, right? Where there is not one in that area. Should the government come in and subsidize it? We know they'll lose money. We know they can't do as well as Walmart in distributing things, but what is wrong with that? Can't you see how that got young people excited? All through TikTok, obviously, but they got excited. Bill, is there anything wrong with that?
Well, the problem with it is that the reason you have food deserts is a law enforcement issue, because stores get looted, private owners shut down their stores because they're no longer profitable, and they leave the area, and it becomes like I said, it's a law enforcement issue in the area. The problem with government-run stores is there is no profit incentive. You get the lowest common denominator of available product that may or may not get stocked on the shelves. Nobody has any motivation to get a product onto the shelves to earn a profit, and they just absolutely suck. I mean, that's why you end up with shortages of critical items in any area. So as far as neighborhood co-op is far different from a government-run store. But I do want to caveat that.
All right, cool. All right, Jeff Klein, back to you, and then I'm going to go to Ollie. Okay, so Jeff Klein, are there these policies that we should be listening to?
Well, I mean, good ideas come when people get together and brainstorm and are open to new ideas. Again, I'm just not sure that there are good ideas out there. I'm not sure that the current people are actually coming up with them.
Well, yeah, that's the problem. And we've had Congress dealing with things the other day. The way Congress works is, a person will get up and stand up and talk and nobody listens, and then all of a sudden everybody disagrees. I mean, that's Congress. Give me a break. They're horrible. Yeah. Ollie, what's that, Jeff? No, Jeff wanted
Congress. sorry, yeah, I mean, the House just passed the big bill by 2 votes. The Senate did it by 0 votes and had to have the VP bring it through. And so we're gonna have never before seen deficits from the party of small government.
I know it. No, yeah, I think
They only
that.
care about deficits when Democrats are in power, Jeff.
Well, there you go.
I know.
All right, Ollie, go ahead and get your last thoughts on this. We're gonna have to wrap up in a second. Go.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Jeff Klein was going at when he said, I'm not sure if there's anybody that's offering any good ideas and nobody like currently. I'm not sure if he was referencing me or the politicians. So if Jeff Nolan is correct, and I hope he is, that it's a test run for the 3 grocery stores, I think that's awesome, because obviously what's going to be found out is that private enterprise can do it better, like Bob said. I also rent control. I've got a couple of capitalism examples. I bought a condo as an investment, rented it out, and I was underwater by about $700 a month. It was a decision I shouldn't have done. Bob also has experience with rent control. I applauded him because he owned a nightclub for like decades. And I remember many years ago, I said, you still got the renters or whatever. Yeah, they've been in there forever and they're paying on time or whatever. I'm like, man, Bob, that's awesome. He's like, no, it isn't. I'm stuck at a particular rent. I'm stuck in the lease and I can't seem to get it.
We couldn't get it to fair market value. It was just hard. So, but listen, Will Rogers said a fool and his money are soon elected. Okay. And that's what we've got with this group. It's bad all over the place. There's no way you can tell me that many people can agree on this many bad ideas on both sides of the aisle. We're against the politicians. We're against the media. Please subscribe, thirdsideconvo.com. We're going to do this again, and next time will be better. But it doesn't matter. I no longer worry about what they say. They're just real people. Nobody is AI. We're thinking about it, though, in some situations. We'll be back next week. Please subscribe. We'll be back and see you on another Third Side Convo. Thank you.